How you doing there? I'm on this this Fender Japan Aerodyne jazz bass today, and I'm going to give you a little lesson teaching you what I was just playing there. It's a technique that I like to use. It's similar to the thumb pluck and thumb strum and upward pluck. But it's a bit different in that I think you can get more control over it. Anyway, let's go on the front pickup with the tone up for this groove, and I'll just tell you what the technique is. Basically, yes, we're in E minor for this, but we're gonna play the E minor with the standard voicing on the A string. So root note is on the 7th fret of the A string with your third finger, and then your first finger goes behind that on the D string 5th fret for minor 3rd G, and then your pinky goes on the 7th fret as well for your 7th, which is D, 7th of E. And you're gonna thumb, pluck, pluck, thumb, and then upward pluck with the thumb. And that's the technique. That's the new technique for you guys to learn. And it's not all that difficult, but what I would recommend is separating your technique practice from your timing practice. First of all, have no metronome, no drum machine, and just get that. To start with, just do it, hold the chord down. Practice moving it round. Then when you're comfortable, you can then put it into the groove. See what I mean? But first you've got to get comfortable with the technique before you can apply it to time. I recommend not, once you got comfortable with it, don't use a metronome, use a drum machine, because, I mean, who plays live with a metronome? Nobody. Who plays, you know, you've got to practice with a drum machine or a drummer, because otherwise you're not going to learn where the different components of a drum beat and groove come. You know, you got to get used to listening to bass drums and snares and hi-hats as well. Hi-hats are very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the groove, Alright, we gotta get some chords on that, man. Okay, so for the chords I'm gonna go on the rear pickup with the tone down. This is more of the bass demonstration here. Oh yeah, baby. That's rear pickup with the tone down. Let's go with the tone up. Let's harmonize that. Oh yeah. Anyway, that gives you an idea, doesn't it, of how it sounds there for the rear pickup. And let's go balance now and just focus on playing more groove. So that's with the tone all the way up, balance. Now with tone down. That's with the tone down. Yeah. So I mean, you know. You get the idea, right? It's a great bass. It plays well, and the action is nice and low. This is at 1.5 millimeters, and you can still dig in. And you know, it's got enough tonal scope. Nicely made. It's made by Fujigen, of course, and this one is this one's mid 2000s, and the thing about this is it is immaculate. It's virtually as if new, except there's a tiny bit of tarnishing on the hardware, barely noticeable, and there is like a hairline scratch here on the side, and of course you got some scratching on the pickguard, but apart from that, it's immaculate. And I also have another black one over there as well, which is equally as immaculate, if not even more so. Apart from there is a ding on the back of that. It's quite inconspicuous though. The rest of it's immaculate. And that one is newer. That's 2010s. Now these basses would usually retail at around 120,000 yen, something like that. But these are in immaculate condition and are basically half that price. On my eBay and my Reverb stores, so brilliant. Yeah, it plays really nice, and It's got a modern neck profile, you know. It's like I said, a very thin jazz neck with a skunk stripe and all the rest of it, what have you. Balances nicely. The aerodyne body is quite light, you know. This one is like 4 kilograms roughly. I'll put the exact weight on the listing anyway, so you know. It plays, yeah, it plays like butter. So yeah, get yourself into that groove as well. You want to take the lesson. There's hundreds of lessons up on my website with tabs and stuff for you to peruse. The membership fee is $5 per month, and you can just peruse freely and find stuff that you want to learn on there. I'm adding to it weekly now, so you'll get four new tabs and backing tracks and whatnot per month. So I think it's worthwhile, you know, if you don't want to take lessons and have a specific stuff tailored for you, it's maybe a good route, and it's inexpensive. So yeah, have a check that out. And one thing I will say though is that I do not write my music on a computer anymore, because it's so niggly, and it gives me carpal tunnel. You know, I can feel like as I'm dragging this note onto the stave, it's like, oh god, no, I hate it. So I write stuff by hand, and I also recommend students should write stuff by hand, because it's visual memory, it's muscle memory from you taking the pen and actually writing on the stave, or writing the tablature out on the stave. It's also visual, because as you're doing that, it's going into your eyes. So I think you remember stuff better if you write it by hand. That's what I'm saying, basically. I would recommend students who are really serious about learning to read, and who want to improve their memorization of scales and modes and patterns and whatnot. Doing that is a good way to get it into your brain. It's the same with learning language. You know, anything that you write down in a second language that you're learning, or whatever it is, third language, whatever it is, anything that you write down, you will remember better, and you will probably be able to use more effectively. And another point I want to make about learning is when you're learning techniques, technique is very important, but technique is not the music itself. I know Jeff Berlin has said this too, and I agree with him to a certain extent, although not fully. Technique and music, yes, of course, you need technique to play music. But you should not practice music and technique at the same time until you have the technique down. So for this one, I would recommend no metronome, no beat, nothing. Just you and your bass. Just drill it. Until you can get it. You know, and just once you've got the that technique, then apply it to time. Put a beat on. Don't put a metronome on. My philosophy is metronomes are pointless. It does not give you a sense. It gives you a sense of time, but it does not give you a sense of music. You want to listen to beats. You want to practice with beats, because as a bass player, you're going to be playing with drummers. You need to get used to playing with bass drum, knowing where the bass drum is in the music, being able to hear it, discern it. Also the hi-hats as well. You want to be able to pick out the hi-hats because they really give you some nice accents. They give you an anchor on which you can really just integrate nicely with the drums. You know, and the snare, of course, is going to be marking the time for you with the backbeats. So it's important. I can't stress enough how important it is to separate your technique from the music to start with, till you've got it down, then bring it together, and then by all means practice technique with a drum beat.